1/3 of Next Gen and Lodging, co-founded with Chris Henry, Davon Reeves, and we are proud to be featured on the Hotel News Now network, part of CoStar. Today, we have a very special guest, Adam with Hireology, and I'm going to hand it right on over before I get into all the questions that I have. Adam, can you give us a quick introduction or overview of yourself and background, and how did you make this happen? What brought you here?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me here. It's great to be here. Yeah. Hireology is a recruiting platform for industries that rely on essential frontline workers for what they do. And so we serve industries where people are the product at the end of the day, and the hotel and hospitality industry being among the biggest that we serve. So we provide all of the tools hotel management teams need to recruit and hire the right people for their organization. And today we work with over 2,000 individual properties, amongst independents, resorts, third-party management platforms, really across the spectrum. Because at the end of the day, people drive the experience in our properties, and most hotels have a long way to go to be able to predictably and reliably staff, their operation. So that's what we're here to do. I started my career in the staffing industry 30 years ago. So I started off, helping employers find talent in doing it at a large national staffing firm, and spent, I'd say, the next 2 or 3 years in that industry and really liked it. But earlier in my career, went to work for what was then a startup software company that served multi-unit property owners. At the birth of the internet, when I'm kind of dating myself, in the late 90s, where everything a property used to do over the fax machine, we would put it on we'd help you do that on the internet, this new thing called the internet. And so I spent 5 years of my career flying around the world installing internet-based software to help end locations transmit information essentially to franchisors. So, what was your F&B? What was the register? Are we ordering sheets, towels, linens, co-op marketing orders, all the things that if you were a franchise owner, you need to send up to your franchisor. You do that through a fax machine, and we help you do that stuff through the internet. And so I, flew around installing the software. This is before the cloud, back when you had to install software in a closet in the property, and which we still do a lot of. But the biggest issue in that role was the turnover rates at the hotels we served. So, every 90 days I was having to retrain whoever inherited the project we were trying to implement because the turnover rates were so bad. And I saw this happen for years. And I just thought, well, I have the staffing industry experience and have been a recruiter. There's a real opportunity in this industry to help hotel management teams be better at this. And so I started a company in the mid 2000s that was recruitment outsourcing. And that led to me building a system that helped them do it themselves. And Hireology is the commercialization of that software that we use to deliver recruiting service. So this has been a 30-year journey. I mean, Hireology has been around for 16 years, but I've been in and around this stuff for almost 30 years. And as the market and industry has evolved, and as hiring practices and the technologies evolved, really what I think about is helping our customers stay on top of these changes and do so in a way that helps them run a better business.
That's incredible, man. That's and it's dope to hear you talk about that life cycle and that maturation process of how you got there, and really what does it look like for you to fulfill a gap and identifying a need and actually building something to help close that gap. So I saw you on the website. You all have 3 industries that you focus on. I'm sure you service all, but how did you choose those 3? And I know you said it a little bit in your intro, but specifically because of the human capital intensity of those three. It was hospitality, I want to say automotive, and what was the third?
Senior healthcare and senior living communities, and so which are very closely in terms of
Absolutely.
a REIT mindset. Really, I mean, it's you see a lot of folks moving between senior housing and
Yep.
long-term care and hotels, and certainly from the investor standpoint. There's a number of characteristics that define the markets that we think we can be the most helpful in. Number one, people are the product, right? We're not we're selling experience, or we're providing a service. We're preparing meals. We're doing things for others. Like they're paying money to buy experience or to buy service outcome. So you can't automate it. So our industry, AI is not going to. I don't care what anyone says. AI is not going to replace guest experience delivered by human beings in this industry. I just don't see it happening. And so, maybe something to talk more about, at least not at scale, right? So there's always going to be a demand for human beings providing great service in this business. Number one. Number two, the growth rate of employment in these industries is faster than the growth rate on average in the United States across all industries. So we're serving industries where job creation is greater than the baseline. And I mean, just a data point on that. This year in Q2 alone, 232,000 unique hotel and full service restaurant positions were posted. 232,000.
Yeah.
We've got maybe 6 million unemployed on average in the United States now that are looking for work. 232,000 jobs open in our industry. No one can find enough good people, right? I mean, there's not enough people to fill all these roles. And so that's the third characteristic. It's just the supply demand imbalance is so off.
Yeah.
Managers need help. Leaders need help. Like you're not just going to post jobs and people are going to show up. Like those days are long gone. And then finally, the turnover.
Got to run an ad in the paper.
Yeah, exactly. I'll post on Craigslist and get some people. I mean, that's just not how it works anymore. And finally, the turnover rates. The turnover rate in this industry, for some operators, north 100%. I mean, that's something I've heard you talk about on this show. Keeping people is really hard, particularly in housekeeping and back of house roles. But it's really all roles. It's hard. And so we serve industries where people are the product. There's not enough of them, and then they're hard to keep. And so, that describes. I think it describes our industry pretty accurately. But that's where we can be of most value.
Yeah.
So that we go into industries where the labor market is really challenged.
So you talked about it. I want to stick with that piece about creating value and where you all add value. So when we start thinking about any common misconceptions about the hiring process, I know we just talked about some of them, but what were some of those misconceptions and pain points that you all are looking to solve for, or I should say are solving for with Hireology? As somebody who's had to hire guest room attendants, as somebody who's had to hire front desk agents, it can be a challenge. It gets to be even more challenging when you get into the leadership roles.
Yep.
And so just kind of talk to me a little bit about how do you all have a little bit more of a bifurcated approach for hourly versus salary talent, and what are some of those pain points that you're looking to solve for?
Yeah, so I'll talk about that split in terms of hourly versus salaried in a minute. The first thing I would say, maybe talking against my own book here, but software by itself doesn't solve a problem. Technology doesn't solve problems. People leveraging technology is what solves problems. And the first misconception is if I buy some new technology, it's going to solve my problem. That's not true. Hotels have lots of shelfware that they bought they don't use. It takes real intention. Like if think of it this way: if you're a general manager of property and we have got to do a better job recruiting, staffing, keeping people. We have to be better at this. Our third party, our staffing costs for housekeepers are way out of line. It's doubled in the last 3 years. It's costing us money. We can't fill positions quick enough. We're having to shut the restaurant down on Tuesdays, all the things. Step 2 is do something about that. Like, you have to have the declared intention to your management team. Like, we're going to focus on this. We're going to get this right. Like, number one, it's not, buy our software and not change the way you go about this. You're not going to solve a problem. Second, recruiting is a sales process. It is not an administrative function. And so the biggest opportunity I see in with most hotels is that the recruiting function is buried in the HR office. And so human resources is a critical function that is generally built for risk management, benefits, time and attendance, compliance, labor regulations, union interaction and negotiations, all the things, state, federal, municipal level labor regulations. And it's really critical to do all those things, run payroll, get people paid. But those are all administrative functions. So recruiting then lives inside this administrative function at most hotels. And administrative functions are not built to be proactive. They're generally built to be reactive by design, and that's okay. That's how they should be. This thing happened, fix it. We have an audit coming up, be ready for it. But recruiting is selling. It is a transfer of trust. And the best recruiting programs are run like a sales operation. I have a marketing funnel. I'm selling a product. The product is employment at my property. Lots of competition with similar products trying to sell to the same customer. I think of a job seeker as a customer in this scenario. You're looking for work. You're the buyer.
Yeah.
You got everybody on the planet trying to sell you something right now. Everyone's hiring. So the question I asked the general manager or the owner of the property or the management team, the first thing I ask is, why would I buy this job opportunity from you instead of the hotel next door or down the street? Why you? Why would I buy from you? You got to have that answer. And the answer that is the right answer for the market changes over the years. Whereas 3 years ago, the product people were looking for was the most possible pay in COVID wage inflation. Today, that's not the case. Today, the thing that people want most is employment stability. That's what they're buying right now. They're buying employment stability, fair wages, a career path, and a team they like. So if I'm trying to create a recruiting program that I need to know my market. I'm going to sell a product that market wants to buy, and my market wants to buy a stable role where they're paid fairly, they work with people they like, and they're part of something with the career path. So to your question on, management versus hourly, those are different buyers.
Right.
Someone looking to buy a GM position is not the same person looking for a night auditor role. They're different markets. So understanding what is the product this market for night auditor job wants. What do they want? They don't want their schedule switched. They want consistent hours. Mm-hmm. They don't want to be dealing with a bunch of craziness all the time, right? They're looking for, a safe and friendly work environment. You're going to sell a different product to a night auditor than you would sell to a general manager. So all of that is more important than the vendor you use to run your hiring process. Now, we work with hotels to get those things right. And when you get those things right and you pair it with great technology, now you've got a sales-focused process where you're selling a product people want to buy, and technology is enabling that and doing a lot of the administrative stuff for you, so it saves you time. And when you do both of those things, we see hotel operators cut time to staff roles in half. Their cost to hire go down, their retention rates go up. All these good things start happening. But it's no different than any other improvement effort that a general manager wants to implement. You know what I mean?
I do. Can you talk a little bit about some of the interesting data points that maybe you all have pulled that you're sharing with folks that they might find interesting? One data point I'd be curious to hear about is what roles are usually taking the longest to find talent? Top two, where I think I know the answer for one of them in my head, which is probably maintenance, but.
You got my answer. Number one, building maintenance and engineering is the toughest because, well, you look at the other industries we serve, skilled maintenance and facilities engineering, that's everyone. Everyone is trying to find plumbers, electrician, skilled folks that can do all the things that you need to do on property. So, I mean, you think about all the facility. We're in the middle of a construction boom in data centers right now, and they are hoovering up all of the skilled construction talent and maintenance workers. I mean, it is very intense there. That's number one. Number two would be general manager.
Really?
Would be the second. I mean, it's easy to hire someone who is not in the top 25% of capability to be a general manager. I mean, you can put anyone in that seat. That doesn't mean you should. So like hiring the right one for your property, that's just such a tricky role. But listeners may be interested that in the last 6 months, and we do a market study every quarterly now, where we survey job seekers in the hotel industry and we ask them a bunch of questions. What are you looking for? Where'd you come from? What do you expect in an employer? Those kinds of things.
Awesome.
43% of job seekers that took a role in this industry, when I say this, I mean literally lodging, came from outside of lodging in the last 6 months, 43%. So they took a look at this industry, the employment products we offer, and they said, okay, this is for me. Right. So that's great. So we're bringing people in. That number's gone up. Second, 11% of job seekers who ended up getting hired in this industry came from a knowledge-based, traditional white-collar, college degreed role. So think business analysts, marketers, managers in office-based environments. About 11% of hires came from traditional professional workforce, which usually our industry is not pulling from those industries. And so it's interesting, and I think the reason why is because the demand for talent is so acute in lodging now that we have all the opportunity. This industry's grown employment on average 30% a year over the last 3 years. Number one by far. Outside of healthcare, like nursing and caregiving. And so,
which is why that's one of the three that you focus on.
It's exactly right. And so, those are the stats that pop off the page, and what your audience, I'd like to think should be thinking about is like, all right, a job seeker on average is going to apply to 16 different roles when they're looking. AI makes it easier than ever to spam your application to 1,000 people.
Yep.
They have their pick. Everyone's selling employment right now. Why you? How is your process different? It's no different than how you answer that question for how's your guest experience different? How's your applicant experience different? How are you designing it? Are you designing it as we're moving them through as fast as we can, turn and burn? Or are you trying to build a red carpet, 5-star applicant experience? What does that look like? It means that when someone walks in the staff entrance for the interview, they're not wandering a hallway looking for someone to talk to. They're expected. They're greeted by name. the interview starts and ends on time. You get back to them in a timely fashion. These are the things that separate employers who get this right and employers who struggle and end up having to hire from the pool of what's left after everyone else has run their process.
And that's a great point when you start thinking about all the challenges right now in terms of sourcing talent. So we have challenges with immigration. We have rising cost of labor. We have then again on the state level, it gets even more interesting in terms of what's happening on the labor markets, specifically as it relates to CBAs or not. But if you could talk a little bit about if you all have any data on what you're seeing for anything above property for folks that are looking to hire at corporate or regional level positions, where are you seeing any interesting data points there that you've observed, or do you all kind of not track the data like that?
We do track it by role type. I don't have that data at my fingertips right now to tell you specifically about those type of roles. But what I can tell you is those roles are among the easier ones to fill because they generally carry higher compensation package. They're generally an office-based role. They're generally stable, and they have what we call generally open to transferable skills from outside the business.
Yep.
And depending on the organization you're working for, many prefer to promote a general manager into a regional role. Like if you ran one route, you can help us run 5 well, that kind of thing. So the promotion paths are clearer there. So the talent pool's a little broader. You got a little more compensation to work with. So those, I don't have exact percentages
good.
there, but that's generally those are not the roles where, we're hearing a lot of quality and right person, right seat is a pain point, but it's not like a building in, maintenance staff where, I post a job and get 0 people applying. Like that's not a role where that happens.
So tell me, a little bit in terms of, I saw that you all have that survey that kind of helps folks get an understanding of a good market scan. What does it look like when you all start working with somebody? Like, what type of environmental scan are you all doing to say, hey, this is your situation. This may or may not be a good fit for you, and this is how we help filter you out, right? Because to your point, because technology is so great, and I had a role just recently get posted, and it was pretty clear that I wanted somebody with hospitality experience, and only got one person, maybe 1.5 persons with actual hospitality experience.
Yeah.
It was just folks that were super quick at just moving through an application and getting that stuff uploaded. So how do you kind of help people? Are you able to help filter out some things or give a leader like, hey, like I only want to see applications that mention food and beverage, restaurants, spirits, P&L. Like if 3 out of those 4 buzzwords aren't in there, I don't even want to see it. Does it get that granular?
It does.
Oh, wow.
It does. So we have a blueprint for success we bring into every new relationship where the first thing we do is have a intellectually honest conversation about what's working or what's not.
Yeah.
And if everything's broken, that's okay. Like we'll start at step 1. So some examples. Most general managers they haven't secret shopped their hiring process. So, somewhere north of 75% of all applicants to our industry come from folks applying on a cell phone. So the first thing I'll do is I'll say, and maybe you can do this, I want you to get out your phone and try to apply to a job at your own hotel.
Yeah.
Go to the career site, go on your phone, and note the experience. Are you making people create a login with a username and password because you're using a payroll system to run hiring? So it's good for the payroll administrator, but it's terrible for the person buying. It'd be like gating your room inventory on a login. Why would you ever do that? Why would you gate room inventory on someone shopping for a room with an email? Like, before you can look at our room availability, please log in. That never you wouldn't do that. But like 60% of hotel career site applications make you create a username and password. You gate your job inventory. Well, I've got everybody in the world selling to me. Why am I going to jump through that? So people who are trying to spam their application everywhere will do it, but the really good people who are intentional about their job search are just not. Second, are you making someone retype their employment experience with their thumbs on their phone? Like, do you have a career application 1.5 miles long? Or you just make it really simple? Name, email, phone number, text follow-up to say, thanks for applying. As the next step in our process, we'd like you to submit your application or your resume whenever you have a chance. Here's the link. Then our system will leverage our AI match product, which is EEO compliant, audited for bias, all the things you don't want to do with AI, right? We've third-party audit the heck out of this stuff to make sure we keep our customers legally compliant at the state level, especially. And it'll tell you this person has or does not have all of these things. That's something AI is really good at. Our AI match will never kick someone out of a process. We'll never automatically reject someone, because that's how you get in trouble. But we will say, of all the people that applied, these folks look like they've got the thing and these don't. But, a human in the loop can verify, but here's all the evidence, et cetera. So you can be reasonably certain the folks on the match list are like, they're going to have those things. The thing we just launched that I'm really excited about is our AI interviewer.
Oh, cool.
So, because what we found in our data is hotel recruiting teams don't respond to about 54% of job applications.
Yep.
Who's got time to reply to 700 people that applied for a check-in role or a server position or housekeeper role? You have the experience. They're all over the place. I don't have time to read all these. And so, but in there are actual applicants with actual experience who could be a really good fit. And so our AI interviewer on the candidate's time, hey, look, we're really, the match looks good. As the next step in the process, when you're ready, click this link to be immediately considered for employment. And you speak to our AI interviewer. And, people talk about whether people are going to do AI interviews or not. And here's what I've learned. Candidates would rather get a look than to have their application go into a black hole and never hear anything. It's a terrible experience, makes you look bad as the employer. So you're screening everyone. So now by the first time, and then that will allow you to automatically schedule in-person interview time with that applicant. So you look at it from the customer's perspective. I submitted my application. It was easy. They got back to me right away. They routed me to an interview. I took it, which immediately routed to a schedule, and I have an interview in 3 days. Awesome. Yeah. Versus, I'm too busy. I got 400 resumes to go through. It took me 8 days to do it. I emailed some people, didn't really work. The person that was supposed to come at 10 a.m. Today ghosted me. Very frustrating process. And that's where all the opportunity is. So it's a long answer to your question, but that's where technology really makes a difference.
Love it.
Getting back to people, providing great experience. Candidates want responsiveness, and they want to know who's real. And that is the role that a solution like ours can play in a world where, you can automate a lot of things with AI. You shouldn't automate everything. But these are the administrative side of recruiting is where, lodging has a huge opportunity to get efficiency gains and better results by using it. And that's what we help our customers figure out.
I love it. And that makes sense. As we wrap here, what are some key takeaways you want somebody to have about Hireology? Number one, and number two, I would say, what's your advice to employers and your advice to job seekers? I'm sure we got some of those that are listening as well.
Yeah, first on the job seeker side, um, look, I understand that there are tools out there that will help you send your job all over the place electronically. If you really want a foot in the door, the thing nobody does anymore is show up to a property and ask if they're hiring. I mean, it just doesn't happen anymore. Or like, hey, I looked at this role, I'm interested in it. Would you mind if I stopped by and had a conversation with you? Just be proactive. Everyone's sending in resumes. Nobody's making phone calls. No one's calling the HR office and going, I'm really interested in this housekeeping role. I'm really interested in this F&B manager role. Or using LinkedIn to find someone who works there that's connected to someone you know to say, I'm really interested in this job. Can you make a warm introduction for me? No one's doing that now. So that's the differentiation.
Absolutely.
It takes a little work, but so is everything that's worth something. So for employers, I would just reiterate, recruiting is a selling process, and you're in the most competitive market in the world. Everyone's selling opportunity in lodging and hospitality right now, everybody. So you got to stand out. You got to do it by running the tightest, fastest, most efficient, candidate-friendly process you can. The process is what's going to help you win here. Just like, if you took 8 days to get back to someone inquiring about a corporate event, how many corporate events would you sell?
Right.
0. The average response time for a lodging employer to get back to an applicant is about 6 days. Yeah. Of course you have a problem. You have a response problem. And so with the intention and the process and the right technology and partner, you'll learn you don't necessarily have a recruiting issue. What you have is a process issue. And if you can build the repeatable, scalable process, it will unlock so much efficiency and reduce your reliance on spending a fortune on job ads because you're just running a tighter process and converting leads differently. And that's what we're happy to help you think through.
I love it. Adam, this has been awesome, man. I appreciate you taking the time to wrap with myself and our listeners today. So I'm excited to see what happens and some additional updates, and keep reading the data from Hireology. As we all know, and we've been saying ever for years, but especially post-COVID, which is that it's a war for talent. And as folks are seeking to secure human capital, sometimes it's good for you to start with that self-examination and seeing where you need help. And like Adam said, it is recruitment is a sales effort, and you have to make sure that you're positioning yourself. So some great takeaways here, and we appreciate you joining Next Gen in Lodging. And as always, you can find all of our episodes on the CoStar News Network. Again, this is Omari Head, 1/3 of Next Gen in Lodging, with Christopher Henry as well as Davon Reeves. And stay tuned for our next episode. Thank you all so much.
Hi, I'm STR's Isaac Colazo.
And I'm CoStar's Jan Freitag. And together we are the data geeks behind Tell Me More, a hospitality data podcast work.
Every month, we bring you a fresh take on the latest hotel data, insights into the travel trends behind that performance, and the big picture topics you should be thinking about.
And we also don't mind getting into some good-natured disagreement from time to time. Hey, when Isaac and I start talking data together, anything can happen, and it usually does.
Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you like to listen.
This episode was recorded in August 2026 and edited by Brian Roten. Find all of CoStar News Hotel's podcasts on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or your platform of choice, and visit costar.com/hotel news for the latest on the global hotel industry.